The Curse of the Jungle's Heartbeat, a journey through untold dangers, hidden treasures, and the secrets that could change destiny. By Your Name. Chapter 1, Whispers of the Green. The jungle had a heartbeat. It wasn't a sound heard by ears, but something felt deep in the chest, an ancient rhythm pulsing beneath the tangled canopy of the Amazon. Legend called it Corazon del Bosque, the heart of the forest, a mythical gem said to be hidden within the living lungs of the earth. But those who sought it often vanished, swallowed by vines or madness. Archaeologist Dr. Elara Voss never believed in curses, facts, fossils, carbon dating, that was her world. But when her estranged mentor, Dr. Marius Kale, sent a cryptic message before disappearing without a trace, Elara was drawn into a journey that would test everything she thought she knew. Chapter 2, The Expedition Assembles. In a dusty university archive in Lima, Elara pored over Kale's fragmented journals, diagrams of ancient temples, notes scrawled in haste, and a phrase repeated with growing desperation. The jungle is alive. It remembers. She wasn't alone in her pursuit. Among her team, Ravi Malhotra, a jungle survivalist with a murky past, Luca Pena, an ambitious cartographer chasing fame, and Marisol Vega, a native linguist whose grandmother once spoke of the heartbeat and its curse. As their helicopter descended into the endless emerald sea, the static in their radios began to throb, not noise, but rhythm. The Jungle's Heartbeat. Chapter 3, The First Trial. Barely 2 days in, the jungle showed its teeth. Razorvine tore at their gear, unseen predators stalked from above, and time itself seemed to twist. One night lasted twice as long as the next. Deep inside a ruined temple, they found Kale's satchel. Inside, a fragment of obsidian shaped like a human heart and pulsing faintly with light. Elara touched it. The world stopped. Visions crashed into her mind, a city of gold wrapped in vines, people with eyes like molten stone, and a curse born when the heart was stolen from the earth itself. She woke up screaming. The mark of the obsidian burned into her palm. Chapter 4, Secrets in the Blood. Marisol revealed her grandmother's stories weren't just myths. Her ancestors had once been guardians of the heart. When outsiders stole the gem, the jungle retaliated. The curse was real, and the forest would never rest until the heart was returned. But Ravi had his own agenda. He'd made a deal with a collector, millions in exchange for the gem. One night, he vanished with the obsidian shard, only to return days later, delirious and covered in markings not made by human hands. He whispered before collapsing, "It's not a gem, it's alive." Chapter 5, The City of Echoes. Guided by clues and half-mad dreams, the group reached a hidden valley veiled in perpetual mist. The lost city revealed itself, towers woven with trees, streets paved in gold-veined stone, and at its center, a living tree with a glowing heart embedded in its roots. But the city was not abandoned. The jungle's ancient protectors stirred, beings of bark and bone, memory and vengeance. They tested the intruders, not with violence, but with truth. Each had to confront their deepest sins. Only Elara passed, offering to return the shard and her life if needed. The jungle paused. It accepted. Chapter 6, A New Pulse. The heart was whole again. As the shard merged back into the living tree, the jungle sighed, a wind that swept through the valley like an exhale held for centuries. The ancient protectors faded into soil and leaf. The curse was lifted, but the cost was real. Ravi was gone. Luca chose to stay, mapping the city for future generations. Elara and Marisol emerged from the jungle months later, changed forever. In her journal, Elara wrote, "The jungle's heartbeat is not just a myth, it is the memory of the earth itself. We must listen, before it beats no more." Would you like a longer version of this story or expanded chapters? Great, here's the continuation. Chapter 7, Shadows Beyond the Canopy. Elara thought leaving the jungle would bring peace, but the heart had marked her, in more ways than she understood. Back in civilization, she began hearing it again, that steady rhythm, soft but persistent, in moments of stillness. Then the dreams returned. Visions of cities crumbling into root-choked ruins, of people with empty eyes and stone growing from their skin. Something had been disturbed, not just awakened. Marisol, too, was affected. The elders of her village said the jungle had chosen them, made them vessels of its will. They weren't just witnesses now, they were guardians. But what were they guarding against? Chapter 8, The Collector's Gambit. Across the globe, rumors of Ilara's discovery spread. Artifacts she'd never authorized for removal began surfacing in private auctions, pieces from the jungle city. Someone had followed them out. That someone was Alaric Vane, the shadowy collector Ravi once served. He had acquired fragments of the heart, or so he believed, but his greed blinded him. What he held wasn't just stone, it was seed, and it was growing. In secret labs, the fragments pulsed with the jungle's rhythm. Vines burst from concrete walls, technicians went mad, and still, Vane pressed forward, dreaming of immortality. Ilara knew what was coming. Chapter 9, The Heart Awakens. Strange phenomena erupted across the world, forests reclaiming cities, animals acting with unnatural coordination, people speaking in forgotten tongues. The jungle was spreading. The heart, now whole again, had begun calling to its fragments scattered by human hands. It wanted unity, it wanted healing, but the world was too sick, too broken. Unless someone intervened, the jungle would do what it always did, consume. Ilara and Marisol formed a new expedition, not of treasure hunters, but of protectors. Their mission, find the remaining fragments, stop Vane, and restore balance before the earth itself turned hostile. The countdown had begun. Would you like me to continue with Chapter 10 and beyond? Or focus on a specific part like Vane's laboratories, the jungle's global spread, or Ilara's transformation? Absolutely, here's the next part of the story. Chapter 10, Vane's Garden of Madness. Hidden deep in the mountains of eastern Congo, Vane's facility was a fortress disguised as a botanical research center. Inside, the walls pulsed faintly with moss and tendrils. The air smelled like rot masked by roses. Ilara, Marisol, and a small team of trusted allies infiltrated under cover of a UN environmental survey. What they found was a horror show, scientists merged with plants, still breathing, roots woven into computers, the heartbeat, the same rhythm, thumped through the power grid. In the center of it all, a greenhouse cathedral where Vane stood, changed. His skin shimmered like bark, his veins glowed faint green. He spoke in a voice not entirely human. You brought the jungle back to life, Dr. Voss. I only gave it direction. He believed he was becoming one with it, an immortal guardian, a god reborn. But in truth, he was a parasite infected with something he could never control. Chapter 11, Fire and Root. Ilara confronted him, offering a chance to return the fragments and reverse the spread, but Vane refused. The jungle doesn't want balance, it wants dominion. I am simply its voice. That's when the facility responded. Trees erupted through steel, lights failed, alarms were drowned in birdsong and growls. The jungle had grown impatient. A war broke out inside the greenhouse, vines versus fire, life versus control. Marisol unleashed ancient chants passed down through her bloodline, weakening the heart's false extensions. Ilara reached the last fragment, an obsidian orb suspended in Vane's chest, and tore it free. Vane screamed as his form shattered, his body decomposing into soil. The heartbeat paused. Chapter 12, The New Guardians. With the final fragment reclaimed, the jungle's wrath ceased. Across the world, the strange phenomena began to fade. Forests receded, wildlife calmed. Humanity was given one more chance to live with nature, not against it. Ilara buried the last shard in the roots of the heart tree, deep in the lost city. Marisol took up the mantle of the guardian, sworn to protect the balance. Ilara, scarred but awakened, returned to the world to speak, not as a scientist alone, but as a witness. She wrote, "The jungle does not hate, it remembers, and when it is hurt, it heals, whether we survive the healing or not." The heartbeat still echoes in her mind, soft but steady. The earth is still watching. Would you like a full book-length draft compiled from all these chapters next? Or maybe character profiles or a film-style synopsis? Of course, here's the epilogue and setup for a possible sequel. Epilogue, The Pulse Beneath the World. Months passed, the world calmed, but Ilara never did. Every night, she dreamed of roots curling around skyscrapers, of rivers flowing backward, of stone temples rising from beneath the sea. One night, in the museum where she curated the remnants of her expedition, a sealed crate arrived with no sender. Inside, a single, blackened leaf, not from any species known to science, and a recording device playing only one sound. The heartbeat, slower now, but louder. Ilara's fingers trembled as she listened. And then she heard a whisper under the rhythm, not a jungle voice, not ancient. A child's voice, speaking in a language that hadn't existed in over 4,000 years. The heart is not alone. Far beneath the Arctic permafrost, a new rhythm had begun. The earth, it seemed, had more hearts than one. To be continued. The Heart of Ice, Awakening of the Deep Root. Would you like me to continue with Book 2, or would you prefer a full compilation of The Curse of the Jungle's Heartbeat in a document or printable format? Great, here's the beginning of Book 2 in the saga. Book 2, The Heart of Ice, Awakening of the Deep Root. Chapter 1, Echoes from the Frozen Silence. Ilara stood on the deck of the Arcturus, a Norwegian research vessel slicing through the fog-bound Arctic waters. The cold gnawed at her bones, but it wasn't the weather that chilled her, it was the heartbeat. It had returned. Slower now, heavier, less like a pulse and more like a drum, ancient, submerged, and waking. The blackened leaf from the mysterious crate had been tested by every lab in the world. No one could identify it. No cell structure, no DNA. It wasn't even truly organic. It was older than biology. And the voice, the child's voice on the recording, was real. An extinct proto-language, older than Sumerian, matching the script Ilara had found carved under the heart tree in the Amazon. It is buried in the ice. The deep root sleeps. The jungle was only the beginning. Chapter 2, The Ice Beneath the Flame. The expedition was covert. Ilara, now both revered and feared by the scientific world, was funded by a new secretive coalition, ecologists, indigenous elders, and even ex-military operatives, those who had seen what the Earth could do when pushed too far. With her were Marisol Vega, now bearing the ceremonial tattoos of the Guardian, her powers deepened and her connection to the planet growing more mysterious. Dr. Noah Havel, a glaciologist who had once dismissed Ilara's work, now obsessed with the seismic readings near Greenland's ice shelf. Commander Idris Kalin, a former Arctic recon operative with a haunted past and one rule: if it bleeds, we burn it. Beneath miles of ancient ice, something had begun to shift. Not a structure, not a being. A system. Something vast. Something alive. Chapter 3, Cracks in the Silence. At the first drilling site, they found a hollow pocket. A void beneath the glacier, unnaturally warm. Inside were remnants of an ancient forest, preserved in ice, except some of it wasn't frozen. It was moving. Tiny root hairs twitched when touched. Spores shimmered in the air like snowflakes. One of the researchers collapsed, her eyes gone glassy, her voice repeating the same word in that same ancient tongue. Return. Marisol sensed it instantly. This is not a new heart, she whispered. This is the first one. The jungle had been a child. This was the parent. Would you like me to continue building the Heart of Ice with the next chapters? Or would you prefer a full outline of the book before diving into more narrative? Absolutely, here's the next part of Book 2, The Heart of Ice, Awakening of the Deep Root. Chapter 4, The Root That Remembers. Deep in the cavern beneath the ice, the team discovered structures, not buildings, but growths, towering stalks of calcified wood, frozen mid-bloom. At their base, symbols older than any known script pulsed faintly with bioluminescence. Dr. Havel was entranced. These aren't ruins, she whispered. They're organs. The entire glacial basin wasn't just sheltering a root system. It was the root system, a single living organism, dormant for eons, waiting for the right temperature, the right rhythm, to awaken. Commander Kalin didn't wait. He deployed incendiaries, hoping to torch the living roots before they could spread, but the fire fizzled out mid-air, sucked into the strange humidity of the chamber. Then, the ice cracked, the ceiling above fractured like glass under pressure. Something enormous was stirring beneath them. Chapter 5, The Hollow Earth Theory. In their temporary base camp, Marisol deciphered more of the symbols carved in the ancient stalks. They told a history unlike any ever recorded. The Earth was once governed by the pulse, a force not magical, but biological, a network of planetary intelligence connecting every biome. Then came the sundering. A civilization, possibly human, possibly not, harnessed the pulse, used it, tried to dominate it. The result was catastrophic. The heart was shattered into fragments, one in the jungle, one in the ocean depths, one sealed beneath the polar ice. Each fragment slept, until recently. Climate change, deforestation, nuclear tests, something had triggered a reawakening. And the Arctic heart was not pleased. Chapter 6, The Awakening. An earthquake shattered the glacial cavern. From the fissure rose a titanic root, pulsing with green-white light. It coiled through the ice, wrapping around drilling rigs and dragging them down. Machines screamed, men vanished in seconds. Commander Kalen fired flares. Havel screamed something in the old tongue, now fully possessed by the pulse. And Alara, marked by the Amazon heart, felt it speak. Not in words. In emotion. Disappointment, fury, loneliness. The heart of ice wasn't malevolent. It was grieving. And it had mistaken humanity's return not as repentance, but as conquest. Would you like Chapter 7 next? Or a quick summary of where the story is going from here? Here's the continuation of Book 2, The Heart of Ice, Awakening of the Deep Root. Chapter 7, Voices in the White. In the blizzard that followed the awakening, visibility dropped to nothing. Ice storm winds howled with an unnatural pitch, like screams echoed through time. Alara and Marisol were separated from the rest of the team, huddled in a narrow ice tunnel beneath the old drilling site. As they navigated the frozen maze, the walls began to glow with embedded memory roots. With every touch, visions surged. Cities swallowed by glaciers in a single night. Ancient beings kneeling before a frozen altar. A voice saying, "We made a promise. You broke it." Marisol collapsed, clutching her head. Her eyes went milky white. The deep root is not alone. It remembers all that was lost, and it wants balance. But balance now meant resetting the world. Chapter 8, Kalen's Betrayal. Elsewhere, Commander Idris Kalen wasn't preparing to run, he was preparing to conquer. Unbeknownst to the team, he had been sent by a splinter faction within the global military-industrial complex. Their goal wasn't to destroy the heart. It was to weaponize it. "You want to talk to it," he snarled at Dr. Havel. "I want to control it. We can't fix the world, but we can rewrite who survives it." Using experimental tech fused with the stolen jungle shard from Vane's failed lab, Kalen tried to sync with the Arctic pulse. For a moment, he succeeded. But the heart rejected him, violently. The glacial floor ruptured, opening into a bottomless chasm of living ice. Kalen disappeared, screaming into the dark. Chapter 9, The Covenant of the Hearts. Reunited at the rim of the collapse, Alara and Marisol faced a choice: flee and warn the world, or descend into the chasm and finish what had begun centuries ago. Marisol placed her hand on the ice, chanting the Guardian's oath. The heart responded, reshaping the landscape to reveal a descending spiral, like a root curling inward. Alara looked back once, then stepped forward. "If we don't make peace with the earth, we'll be erased by it." Below, at the very core of the deep root, something stirred. Not a monster. A memory. Not a weapon. A choice. Would you like to continue into Chapter 10? Or would you prefer an interlude or perspective chapter from the heart itself or the ancient civilization that created the first pulse? Here is Chapter 10 of The Heart of Ice, Awakening of the Deep Root. Chapter 10, The Memory Core. The spiral tunnel led them miles beneath the Earth's crust. The walls pulsed with a gentle glow, cool blues and pale greens, as if they walked through the veins of a sleeping titan. No footsteps echoed. Time felt suspended. At the end of the descent, they emerged into a vast chamber, a hollow sphere of ice over a mile wide, filled with a massive crystalline formation growing like a tree made of frozen light. At its center floated the memory core, a translucent sphere encasing scenes in motion, civilizations rising, falling, planting forests, waging wars, every age of Earth, playing at once. Marisol collapsed to her knees, her voice cracked. This isn't just the past, it's judgment. The heart had stored the truth of every era, and now, it would choose whether humanity was worth continuing. Chapter 11, Trial of the Pulse. The heart spoke, but not with words. It flooded their minds with tests. Alara relived every choice that led to death in the jungle. The lies she told to fund the expedition. The times she stayed silent when sacred land was exploited. Marisol faced visions of her ancestors, asking why she hadn't stopped the new age of colonization that now came wearing corporate masks. They each stood trial, not for guilt, but for intent. Were they part of the world's sickness, or its possible cure? Then the heart asked one question. If you had the power to reshape the earth, would you use it? Ilara answered, no. Marisol, only to restore what we destroyed. Silence. Then, a second heartbeat. Chapter 12, The Second Awakening. The chamber shook. A light burst from the memory core, racing through the crystalline tree and into the surrounding rock. For thousands of miles, ancient root systems pulsed awake, from Antarctica to the Himalayas. But they didn't rise in fury. They rose in hope. The earth was offering a pact. Not extinction, not forgiveness. A second chance, but only if its guardians could ensure the balance would hold. Marisol accepted the mantle, her skin etched with living patterns of ice and bark. She was no longer just a guardian of the jungle. She was guardian of the world pulse. Ilara stepped forward and made her promise. We'll guide the world into balance, or we'll let it fall. Above them, the ice began to thaw, not with fire, but with life. Would you like the final chapters that wrap Book 2? Or should we begin laying out Book 3, The Heart of Stone, Rise of the Silent Core? Here is the conclusion of Book 2, The Heart of Ice, Awakening of the Deep Root. Chapter 13, The Exodus Protocol. Word of the Arctic Pulse's activation spread fast, but not through official channels. Instead, subtle signs began to emerge across the globe. Rivers in Africa began to flow upstream, briefly, then corrected, cleansed of pollutants. Mountain ranges trembled, shaking loose mining colonies and closing illegal extraction zones. Satellites captured forests growing at impossible speeds across war zones, covering them in silence. The earth was shifting, not to punish, but to correct. Governments panicked. A secret council known as the Coalition of Steel launched a plan, Exodus Protocol, a last-ditch effort to seal or destroy the ancient biopulses. They feared what they could not control. Ilara, Marisol, and their allies had to act quickly. Because the heart had made its offer. And the world was about to choose. Chapter 14, The Day the Skies Turned Green. As coalition forces descended on the Arctic crater with EMPs and cryobombs, the heart responded, not with violence, but with connection. Every living being near a pulse, animals, humans, plants, experienced a shared moment of awareness, a single vision. A future Earth, healed, luminous, shared between human cities and conscious forests, technology and nature, united. And then, another vision. A blackened sky, oceans turned to ash, root systems burned into silence. The heart withdrew, awaiting humanity's decision. Kalen, alive and mutated by his failed pulse fusion, re-emerged, now a vessel for a corrupted shard he'd kept hidden, a fragment from a fourth heart. One that didn't want balance. Only dominance. Chapter 15, Guardians of the Last Light. The final confrontation took place in the shattered memory core chamber. Kalen, twisted and monstrous, led a strike team to merge the corrupted shard into the root tree and seize control of the planetary network. But Ilara, Marisol, and the spirits of the awakened biomes fought back, not with guns, but with memory. They fed the root all the truth it had forgotten, humanity's compassion, sacrifice, resistance against greed. And in the final moment, Ilara made a sacrifice. She merged herself with the core, becoming its living interface, a conduit for human empathy. Kalen was undone. The corrupted shard dissolved in light. The coalition fell. And the world stood still. Epilogue, the breath between heartbeats. Ilara's body was never recovered, but Marisol says she speaks to the heart through wind and water. The earth is healing, slowly. Borders are fading, cities are learning to coexist with the wild, technology is merging with biology. And in forgotten places, new heartbeats begin to stir. The planet has not one heart, but many. Each one a choice. Each one a warning. End of Book 2. Next, The Heart of Stone, Rise of the Silent Core. A forgotten desert holds a final secret. Beneath the sand lies something ancient and watching. Would you like to begin Book 3? Compile the full story into an ebook format, or explore companion materials like maps, character bios, or faction dossiers. Here begins Book 3, The Heart of Stone, Rise of the Silent Core. Book 3, The Heart of Stone, Rise of the Silent Core. Prologue, Beneath the Dust. Long before cities, before oceans settled, before the earth cooled, there was a breath. Not wind, not weather. A breath within the planet. It carved tunnels under the deserts, raised mountains in spirals, and laid one final root deep in the crust, encased not in ice or jungle, but in silence. This was the first heart, buried beneath time itself. It did not dream. It waited. And now, it begins to stir. Chapter 1, Whispers in the Sand. A sandstorm devoured the Algerian dig site in less than 6 minutes. When it cleared, all equipment was gone, and every electronic device within a 10-mile radius had been wiped clean. But the real mystery was the symbol etched perfectly into the exposed bedrock. The same one Alara had worn on her hand when she vanished in the Arctic. Marisol Vega, now guardian of the global pulse, stood over it. She felt nothing. No heartbeat, no warmth, no memory. Only pressure, as if the air itself wanted to crush her lungs. This heart doesn't want balance, she said, it wants silence. A force untouched by jungle, ocean, or ice. A heart that had never been awoken for a reason. Chapter 2, The Silent Core. A mysterious figure appeared in a surveillance video days later, wrapped in robes, face obscured by a stone-like mask. They walked through active minefields untouched. Machines around them shut down. Birds fell silent mid-flight. Locals called it the Dustwalker. Marisol tracked the Dustwalker to an abandoned Berber temple in the Sahara. There, etched in obsidian, a spiral carved inward, a match to the jungle's root symbol and the Arctic's crystalline tree. But this symbol pointed down, into bedrock. And deep within the temple, a voice, not spoken but felt, echoed. The jungle cried, the ice remembered, but the stone never forgave. Would you like to continue with Chapter 3, or get a full outline of the Heart of Stone before diving deeper into the narrative? Here's Chapter 3 of The Heart of Stone, Rise of the Silent Core. Chapter 3, The Dustwalker's Legacy. Marisol stepped carefully through the temple's shadowed halls, the air thick with centuries of forgotten history. The walls whispered secrets in a language older than the pyramids. At the temple's heart, she found an altar carved from black granite. Embedded within it was a shard, dull and heavy, pulsing faintly. But unlike the other hearts, its rhythm was erratic, unpredictable. Suddenly, the Dustwalker appeared behind her, silent as a shadow. You seek balance, the figure said, voice gravelly yet ancient. But the Heart of Stone knows only endurance. It does not forgive weakness. Marisol's hand instinctively reached for her guardian tattoos, now glowing softly with ice-blue light. Then teach me endurance, she replied. The Dustwalker nodded and extended a cracked, stone-like hand. If you survive the trial of stone, you will understand the silence beneath the world, but if you fail, the desert will consume you. Chapter 4, Trial of Stone. The temple shifted, the walls grinding and sliding as the ground trembled beneath her feet. The chamber transformed into a labyrinth of shifting sand and stone, endless and merciless. Marisol navigated corridors that seemed to test every fiber of her being, endurance, will, memory. The air grew thin, the light dimmed, and echoes of long-dead civilizations haunted her steps. At the labyrinth's center, she faced a colossal stone guardian, part machine, part living rock, its eyes burning like molten lava. With no weapons, no tools, Marisol had to rely on the lessons learned from the jungle and the ice, connection, patience, and balance. Would you like me to continue with Chapter 5 or switch to a detailed outline of the rest of the book? Here's Chapter 5 of The Heart of Stone, Rise of the Silent Core. Chapter 5, The Stone Guardian. The stone giant moved with the deliberate weight of a mountain. Its footsteps shook the labyrinth floor, dust falling like ash. Its voice was a grinding rumble that echoed through Marisol's mind. Why do you seek the Heart of Stone, Guardian? Marisol steadied her breath, feeling the pulse of her tattoos grow stronger, a harmony of jungle and ice. To protect the balance, to prevent destruction. The Guardian lowered a massive hand, not in attack but in challenge. Balance is not always peace. Sometimes, it is silence, endurance, survival through hardship. Marisol stepped forward, accepting the challenge. She did not fight. Instead, she matched the Guardian's slow rhythms, mirroring patience, resilience, and respect. The Guardian's eyes softened. It stepped aside. You have begun to understand. Chapter 6, The Heart of Stone Awakens. With the trial complete, Marisol was led deeper beneath the temple into a vast chamber carved into bedrock. At its center lay the Heart of Stone, a colossal crystal, dark and opaque, yet humming with ancient power. It radiated a slow, steady heartbeat, deeper and older than any she had felt before. The Dustwalker removed their mask, revealing a weathered face marked by time and wisdom. This heart does not seek to destroy, but to endure, to outlast all threats, storms, wars, neglect. It will grant you the strength to protect or the silence to wait. Marisol understood. The three hearts, jungle, ice, and stone, were pieces of one planet's living consciousness, each embodying different forces of nature. Together, they must be guarded, she said, or the world will fall. The Dustwalker nodded. And the next test begins. Would you like to continue with Chapter 7, or explore character backstories and world lore before moving on?